It's time for the 49ers Rush podcast. And here's your host, John Chapman.
All right, 49ers fans, welcome to another episode of the 49ers Rush podcast. I'm your host, as always, John Chapman. And, man, we've got a lot of good stuff we're going to get through today. We are going to try to focus entirely on the 49ers defense. Now, we're going to be talking about the Rams game, and I really don't think I could do enough podcasts just on that last week's victory because it was just so sweet. But we're going to go over that. We're going to go over a couple practice notes today that took place for both the 49ers and the Washington Redskins that are going to have impact moving forward. But again, we're going to dive in. I'm going to show you guys a lot of film, coaches' film, behind the center, behind the line, end zone camera, and wide 22, all 22 angle, just so we can kind of get a better perspective of why things are working or perhaps not working early on in the football game that we saw in the first drive with the Rams, and what changes were made. So a whole bunch of stuff that we're going to get into, and I have a little bit of a special thing for our betting segment as well. I've been asked to expand that, which is awesome, and I really appreciate you guys reaching out. So we're going to get into those things as well. Now, just a little bit of news before we jump into what happened last week again on the defensive side. 49ers practicing or perhaps not practicing today. Deebo Samuel and DJ Jones did not practice at all. Now, Deebo Samuel with his groin and DJ Jones with his hamstring, it is looking like both of those players will not be suiting up this week. Now, something could change, but as far as right now, it does seem like those are going to be the players that are out. DeForest Buckner seemed like he got a vet day. He has not appeared on the injury report whatsoever, but they've been cycling players through this as well. And George Kittle, who a lot of people got a little worried just because his groin tightened up last week right before the game, he got an extra light day. Now, if you watched any of the Rams game at all, you know George Kittle's just fine, but why not give him a little bit of a light day just to make sure that he can completely clear the groin issue. Now, from Ben Standig on Twitter, he said, Dwayne Haskins took all of the first-team reps today for the Redskins. Now, before you get too excited, they gave Case Keenum a Veterans Day off, which I do not understand why in the hell you would do this, especially whenever you look at the fact that he's been injured. He's played one game, and they barely beat the Miami Dolphins. So take this for what you want. I don't understand that whatsoever. Perhaps he's not fully healthy, but Case Keenum is going to be the starter this week. And, you know, I've got a lot more stuff about the game. I have a scouting report episode, which seems to be everybody's favorite. It's getting the most traction each and every week, coming up in the next 2 days. And also, got to give a shout out. I'm going to be on KNBR for all you local San Francisco natives tonight, talking about the game coming up. I've been asked to go on there, which I'm really, really excited about. I listen to them all the time, so for them to reach out was pretty cool. And just want to say thanks again for all the support. As always, please upvote and retweet whenever you see my stuff. That's how you help the podcast the most. And also pay attention to NinersRush.com. We have a lot new content coming out, working on an article now, and so that should be up tonight before too long. So without further ado, man, let's jump into some film. Again, today we're going to be focusing predominantly on the defensive side. If you have questions, please throw those in the chat. But what is it about the 49ers defense that is so special? Because they're destroying everybody. And yeah, they had one drive, the Rams I'm talking about, start off the bat. They come out 9 straight runs, and we give up our very first rushing touchdown of the season, which, man, yeah, we knew it was going to end eventually. Who would have guessed it was going to end to a wide receiver on an end around? But I guess that's what it got to be. So we can still use, whenever you're talking to your friends, we still have not allowed a rushing touchdown to the running back quarterback. So we're just going to adjust that just a little bit. We are still second in the NFL for the least amount of rushing touchdowns allowed. How was work? Work was great today. Work is great every day. I'm a high school teacher, as many of you guys keep asking, and I love my job. Today was SAT day for high school kids, so it's kind of boring because you just kind of got to sit there and watch them, but it feels like what it is. Quick question right here from Raymond. I feel like the Rams coach and GM will be fired in the next 2 years. That was a desperate move. They sold the ranch, the house, and their baby mamas. Great question, Raymond. I don't know. There is a premium in the NFL for offensive creative coaches. And yes, do I like the moves that they made? They got better in the short term. I don't think that there's any qualms about that. They did get better this year, but what did they sacrifice? They sacrificed 3 premium picks, really just 2 first-rounders. But from the Rams' perspective, they're saying they're going to win it all, and they're betting on winning it all. I do not believe that they have near the roster to be able to compensate for their offense and defensive line failures. Yes, they do have Fowler. Yes, they do have Aaron Donald. Yes, they have Andrew Whitworth. But that's not enough. That's a 9-person group. If you're just looking at starters with 5 offensive linemen, 4 defensive linemen, you win in the trenches. It's just what it is, and they do not have it. So take that for what you want. Yeah, I don't think that McVay is going to be fired, perhaps the GM, but these are McVay moves. I'm just going to be honest with you. Just want to know how you feel about the Rams' desperate move. Man, these are the questions, again, flying up about the Rams. Yeah, they're desperate. And what's even more crazy is they came out today and they said they're not even sure that Jalen Ramsey's going to start this week because they don't know the situation he's in, which I'm just like, how the hell would you trade for a guy 2 first-round picks when you're at a 500 record if you're not sure if he's even going to be playing this week? Now, because he's a corner, you just do some man coverage with Wade Phillips out on the outside. Relatively easy to transition, schematically speaking. They don't really do anything special. The Rams do a lot of quarters coverage, which we saw, but if he doesn't play this week, that is, I don't know, weird to say the least, but take that for what you want to say. Do you think this is going to be a revenge game for Kyle Shanahan? Hell, yes it is. Kyle Shanahan and his father were both fired from the Redskins in 2013. So, yeah, this is a big deal. And we've got to be thankful if you look at everything that they have gone through. Just since they fired the Shanahans, it's gotten worse and worse and worse. Kyle Shanahan is one of the best memories of anybody that's ever been involved in the NFL, not only just in his play recognition, but if you hear him talk about previous games from years ago, he can tell you the down and distance and what hash they were on and the coverage and all that stuff. Him and McVay, the YouTube videos are out there if you want to look that up. If you want to look at memory with the players, he is the most loyal person in the world. If you have played for him in a scheme before, he will bring you with him. He signs almost everybody that's ever played for him. So if we continue to just kind of expand the way in which he remembers the people that are on his side and have worked well with him, we've got to assume that same memory goes against. This is a guy that's been promoted since day one across everywhere he has been except for with Washington. So, yeah, I expect zero couth. I expect zero chill. I expect zero whatever. And if the 49ers can go up 45 points, believe me, I wouldn't be... He's a classy dude, and I get that. But I would not be surprised if we're seeing deep play-action passes despite the fact that they are up several points and several touchdowns. So, yeah, I do see it's going to be an interesting game. Now, if we look at the spread, Vegas feels the exact same way because the 49ers are 10.5-point favorites right now, and it's only a 41 over-under. So you look at the way that's supposed to... That's a huge gap. They're not seeing like the Redskins are going to be able to do really anything to the 49ers defense, and I'd agree with you. I do agree with you there. Now, let's see here. Next question that we have up. Here we go. KNBR, they must like what they hear from you. Right on. Yeah, appreciate that. Yeah, really, really excited. It's going to be the night show. The interview should air from 10 to midnight, 10 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to midnight tonight. So look for a listen there. I would appreciate it. And let me know how I did and let them know how I did if I did a good job. I'd like to be on there a little bit more. I believe in what they're doing over there. How should we worry about the Ramsey trade to the Rams? Absolutely not. Are they better? Yes. Did we beat them because of bad corner play? Hell no. Again, back to the same thing. We beat them in the trenches, and we beat them with coaching. And so I think that Jalen Ramsey does not change that whatsoever. So I do like that. Do you trade for A.J. Green? I do put in a trade offer for A.J. Green if I am the 49ers GM, John Lynch. I do. And I shoot low. I'm offering a third and Richie James or Kendrick Bourne or something along those lines to see what can happen. You do not overpay for A.J. Green. One, because he's old. He's over 30 years old. He's been very injury riddled. However, somebody of that stature that we could get over here would be gigantic for this year and next year. He would be by far the best wide receiver that we have. Again, he's still probably going to be out another week or two. He still has not practiced fully from that high ankle sprain. And it just shows you what high ankle sprains can and can't do. You know, his injury took place right before Nick Bosa's injury, and he still hasn't played. So take that for what you want. Are the Niners shopping Solomon Thomas? I do not believe so now. Solomon Thomas is coming off of his best game as a pro, and we are going to talk about that here in a little bit. But yeah, Solomon Thomas, if you listened last week, I even said, and I understand that I've been very difficult on Solomon Thomas, and I'm going to continue to be. He was the number 3 overall pick in the NFL draft. Now, I'm difficult on Solomon Thomas playing on the edge. He should never take another snap on the edge. The one series where Solomon Thomas played on the edge, he played 4 snaps at the defensive end position. 3 of them went for a first down directly at Solomon Thomas. He's not an edge player. I don't know where the hell the offense or the coaching staff is getting this. He cannot perform there, okay? And we've seen that for 3 years now. The 3 series that he was in the defensive interior, one of the top graded players we had, impactful on almost every single play, withstood the double team at the nose position. And so last week I said I want him starting versus the Rams at the nose position. He didn't. The very first drive, let's jump into the film here, right? The very first drive, they come out and they run 9 straight plays. Here's the reason why they scored. There's several reasons, but one, they were doing basically a zone to the right or zone to the left. It was wherever DJ Jones was lined up. That was the key that they were targeting. And what happens is when DJ Jones lines up on his guard or center or in the gap or wherever, based on his run key, his overrun key is what it's called, the man that he's lined up, he's going to read the block. So if the offensive lineman comes out and hits DJ Reed as a base block, then you've got to push him back and get penetration. Now, if it tries to do a reach block, which is what we see in the zone blocking scheme, which we're very familiar with Kyle Shanahan, meaning I'm lined up close to head up or in a shade of the guy in front of me, it doesn't matter what position, and instead of him firing out to hit me in a base block, which tells me the ball is coming straight ahead, he's going to take, the offensive lineman's going to take a lateral step to the left or right. It doesn't really matter. What I'm taught, and this is the zone that we play, the type of defensive scheme that we play with our defensive line. Instead of shooting straight up field, I get on my horse and go laterally and try to maintain my gap, okay? So if I'm lined up between the guard and the center, and they both take a lateral step to the offensive right, I'm the defensive tackle, DJ Jones, I have to stay between the guard and the center, maintaining a shoulder free so that I can make a tackle if this is the gap in which the running back is trying to step into, right, or to cut up into. And so what would happen is DJ Reed got completely washed out of the hole by about 10 different yards each time that happened. And so they saw something on film where they could attack that. And they marched straight down the field and scored a touchdown. DJ Reed gets blown off the ball. And to be honest with you, DeForest Buckner got blown off the ball a couple times too, where he just got taken way out of the play, completely washed down to where the gap integrity was now suspect at best, which means the linebackers and the safeties, they're covering 1 or 2 gaps at the same time. And if the running back cuts back at the correct time, that's a problem. This is also a big reason why the 49ers Kyle Shanahan run scheme works so well. Whenever that happens, great things happen for your running backs. Well, we got Shanahan that first drive. But what was different, and you'll see this in a couple of the plays here, when you see Solomon Thomas lined up at the nose or at the 1 or the 3, depending on how you want to talk about it, but the big defensive interior guy. We don't run a true nose. We run a 4-3 scheme, but we do have a big defensive lineman, and a 3 technique is probably the best way, the most the correct way to say it, I guess. Nose is not going to be correct for most of our things because we don't put them straight up on top of the center all the time. So anyway, what we do later on, and we started doing this in, I think, the 3rd drive, what we're doing instead is, instead of telling Solomon Thomas or the big defensive lineman that's in the 1 or the 2 or the 3, not DeForest Buckner, is we got penetration and we pushed the guy back, which allowed our linebackers to step up in the play. So even though Solomon Thomas or whoever was in there was making the play, they weren't making the tackle. You're helping the other team get up in there better. And so you're going to see this on the film, and that's the biggest change from the first drive to the second drive, is we made a really quick adjustment. You got to give credit to our defensive coordinator, Robert Saleh. Did an awesome job, but the defensive line has been the kind of cornerstone of this entire team. Whether you're looking at the passing game and all of the interceptions that we're getting, yes, the secondary stepped up a lot, but what's happening on the defensive side of the ball is crazy. Another crazy stat that I found on Twitter, this is from Dane Brugler. Nick Bosa is averaging a pressure every 9.3.5 snaps. That rate is the number 1 in the NFL for any player that's had over 150 snaps. So there's 2 other rookies on the list. So Nick Bosa is leading the NFL, 1 pressure for every 9.3 snaps. Khalil Mack, 1 pressure for every 11 snaps. Marcus Davenport and Brian Burns tied, 1 pressure for 13 snaps. And then Robert Quinn and Josh Allen, another rookie, 1 pressure for every 14 snaps. But again, what Nick Bosa is doing is incredible, but you could argue the best defensive lineman we've had this year is Eric Armstead. And this goes into the next question. This is Armstead's contract year, correct? Yes, it is. Is he due for a big contract? Yes. If you look at defensive ends over the past, the 2018 season to 2019 season, Eric Armstead is a top 10 defensive end, period. I do believe that he is the best run-stuffing defensive end in the entire NFL. You could put Cameron Jordan on there. Maybe he's up there, but Eric Armstead is it. He is great. The way that this guy is playing it's unreal. You've got to be able to keep him. Somebody asked me today, well, if we let him go, we can just put Solomon Thomas in there. And I was just like, what the hell is wrong with you? Solomon Thomas needs to never play another snap on the edge ever again. So without further ado, let's just jump straight into the top 5 and bottom 5 ranked players, according to Pro Football Focus. So there's a lot that I disagree with here, but there's a lot that I do agree with. We had 3 players with elite level production and scoring. D Ford, who only played 21 snaps, I think this is kind of what we're going to see for a while from him, just come in a limited pass rushing only role and just dominate. So he was the top ranked player with a 94.9, one of the highest scores of any defender in the entire NFL through 6 weeks of the NFL. I mean, you don't go higher than a 95. You just you don't see it ever. So for him to be that high off of 21 snaps, if he is that effective, you've got to be really, really happy with what you're getting. Eric Armstead, who we talked about, he played 40 of the 52 snaps. He continues to kind of be the Iron Man of the defensive line. He scored a 90.3 and was just solid everywhere. 4 pressures, got 1 sack, 3 quarterback carries, huge effort in the run game, and you're going to see one of these plays here. If you're paying attention, if you're watching on YouTube or Twitch or Periscope, you're going to see them run a jet sweep with Brandon Cooks, one of the fastest, shiftiest players in the NFL, right past Eric Armstead. You're going to see Eric Armstead plant, flip his hips, and take a perfect pursuit angle and catch Brandon Cooks as Brandon Cooks is trying to juke somebody out at the numbers about 12 yards downfield. That's unbelievable for a guy that's 6'6" and weighs plus 300 pounds. What he's doing, effort-wise, technique-wise, power-wise, all across the board, It's wonderful. Third-ranked player is Jimmy Ward. Holy cow. Who would have guessed we'd have these three players in this elite level? Eric Armstead, who a lot of 49ers wrote off after the first 2 years because he couldn't stay healthy. Jimmy Ward, who any snap we get from Jimmy Ward, you just got to be thankful. He's playing wonderful. He made 3 plays on fourth down. 3 stops on fourth down by himself. 2 in the run game, 1 on the goal line. They went for 4th and 1 later on, and he was able to knife through and tackle him about 6 inches short of the goal line. And then again on 4th and 2, he was in man coverage versus Cooper Kupp. Again, this is one of the plays that's up there. And just like a blanket, got around him perfectly, textbook, knocked the ball away. So Jimmy Ward stops 3 fourth down conversions. And again, you got to give it to this defense because the NFL percentage gap for third down conversions is 50%. You're below that, you need to improve. You're above that, you're doing a hell of a job. Rams went 0 for 9 on third down and 0 for 3 on fourth down. Remarkable. Absolutely great job. And last 2 guys, Solomon Thomas and Nick Bosa, round out the top 5 whenever we look at snaps. Solomon Thomas got 25 snaps, which is great for him. That's about where he should be. We saw his lowest snaps 2 weeks ago, went up in snaps last week, and it went up again this week. I'd prefer that to get closer to 30 to 35. There are some players that we need less snaps. But before we jump into that, I want to take a second and talk about MyBookie, our sponsor, mybookie.ag. Use promo code 49ers. I'm getting lots of private messages saying, hey, what are you looking at this week? Can we talk through some things? Some people are on the kind of just now getting started betting. Some people are on the advance. So what I'm wanting to do is a layup bet that I feel very, very confident with. It's going to have less of a payout, and then a little bit more of a complex one. The first bet is this. Dante Pettis getting 40 receiving yards or more. This is a bet. You look at the fact that Deebo Samuel is probably not going to play. And you've got to love the matchup against the Washington secondary, which is awful. Now, this bet is a negative 118 bet, which means if you bet $10, you win $18.50 back. So it's not one of those where it's going to double up your money or more, but this is a wonderful layup bet if you're just trying to get started. Dante Pettis, 40 or more receiving yards, put down 10 to win $18.50 back. And again, just to remind you, we are 8 for 11 on the year. As far as bets that we have gone on this podcast. And again, if I say something on here, understand I am putting down my own money on this. So hopefully you guys have made money with us, but if not, that's okay. Now, our more advanced bet on mybookie.ag, again, promo code 49ers, it's a parlay. And a couple people asked me to explain what parlays and teasers are, and we're just going to spend a little bit of time on just what a parlay is. Parlays are the best way to bet a little bit to win a lot. Okay, so what I am doing is I'm picking 4 games, and again, you can choose to bet the money line, which just means straight up. So, for example, the 49ers are getting 10.5 points. They're giving away 10.5 points. So if the 49ers win the game by 7, they do not cover the spread. But if you click on the money line, that just means win straight up. But the odds are always bad. So, for example, if you put $10 down on the 49ers to win straight up, you're going to get $11 back. That's how much favored they are. So that's a fine bet if you want to just win $1. But instead, what I'm doing is I'm going to parlay. I'm going to put 4 games together that are like this. So the 4 games that I'm highlighting across the NFL this week on MyBookie is 49ers straight up. I'm betting the money line on that. Packers to cover the spread. They're giving away 5.5 points. Okay, they're at home against the Raiders. The Raiders are in complete disarray. The Trent Brown domestic violence accusing things. Their starting wide receiver Terrell Williams is out. Just don't believe in them. I think the Packers are going to cover that spread at home. The Jags straight up at Cincy. That's another one of those just with a crazy Cincinnati's awful. They're a bad team. And then get this, I am betting on the Rams to cover at home against the Falcons. I don't believe in the Falcons' defense. And whenever the Rams go from playing the number 1 defense in the NFL to the number 32 defense in the NFL, I think it's going to be like practicing varsity, then scrimmaging JV. So I have all 4 of those things. So I'm betting $5 that all 4 of those things happen to win 29. So if one of those is wrong, I don't win. But this is a way to magnify. If you don't have a lot to spend to bet, do not overspend. This is supposed to be a fun thing. And so this is a way to bet just a little to win a lot. So again, my parlay of the week, 49ers straight up, Packers to cover, Jags straight up, Rams to cover. It's only a 3-point spread versus the Falcons, who I just don't think they're a very good football team. So if you want to join me on that, please head over there. Man, it's a lot of fun, but if you have a problem gambling, please stay the hell away. Now, Raymond, another question from Raymond here. I hope they keep Solomon Thomas inside. He's much more productive in the middle. Completely agree. What team are you scared to play as the 49ers? If I had to rank the entire NFL, and this might piss some people off, it's going to be the Seahawks. The way Russell Wilson is playing right now, that's the only player in the NFL that scares me. He's literally it. And so do I think that we are better than the Seahawks? I do. I would much rather play the Patriots, which might seem like a weird thing, but with Tom Brady back there, who I think Tom Brady's fine, but he can't move at all. So their offense, they're going to have to get the ball out super, super quick. Does this mean I think we'll beat the Patriots? Absolutely not. Russell Wilson is the only player in the NFL that scares me. The way that guy's playing, 14 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, just doesn't make any sense. So anyway, take that for what you will. All right, next question. Here we go. AJ Green over Emmanuel Sanders? Yes, big time. Emmanuel Sanders scares me by a lot. He recovered from his Achilles injury at age 32 really, really well, and he came out, but since the first 3 games, he's looked worse and worse and worse every week. I think he rushed back that injury a little bit too much. That just scares me. AJ Green, if both these players are healthy, AJ Green's better across the board anyway. But that's what it is. Next question, here we go. How will Armstead, Blair, Breida, and everybody in this offseason contract work out? It's going to be rough. No lie, just with where we are right now. And again, for all the people that are constantly saying, go trade for this guy, why aren't we getting this guy? You got to pay him. And the Rams are learning this already. It's going to be rough. And a big reason why the Rams got destroyed against the 49ers because they don't have depth on the lines. And they're not going to have depth on the offense or defensive line moving forward now because of the trade that they just did. So they believe they can win with skill positions on the offense and defensive side. Best of luck to you. You look at the 49ers, 5 first-round picks on the defensive line. I think we have 4 first-round picks on our offensive line. Just 3. Yeah, just 3. But that is where you win games. Now, if we look at next year, cap's going to be a little bit of a problem. We can move some money around. Jimmy G's contract number 1, you just renegotiate that, add more to a signing bonus. That's going to push back some of those costs. But as of right now, we're just over $20 million available for 2020. We'll have to see what happens. I think the priority of those 3 players, Eric Armstead has to be the number 1 priority. Then Breida. I love Breida, but the running back position in Kyle Shanahan's schemes a little bit iffy. Then, of course, somebody's going to pay Blair. He deserves it, man. This guy has just completely balled out. And if you look at just how consistent he's been, you've got to be happy. He's the first guy off the bench at the defensive end position that's not, quote-unquote, a starter. He only got 15 snaps last week. Definitely, I wouldn't say he was bad. He got 2 pressures and a sack off of 15 snaps, but he did have a couple of bad plays, which you'll see in the highlights there. Now, let's look at the lowest-rated defenders, and again, only 18 players got defensive snaps. The worst-rated players was Kwan Williams. Now, here's the deal with Kwan Williams. A lot of the run game was a big reason why his grade was what he is, and it's tackling. He took a couple bad angles that led to some huge plays. Then he injured his hand, but as we said, he's out there practicing today, so he's going to be just fine. It's really weird. He's been one of the top players or one of the bottom rated players every week. But that's going to happen when you're playing against Cooper Kupp. Quan Alexander, he ranked with a 40. Again, his tackling grade was suspect at best, but he had some great plays. He did get 1 pressure as well and was targeted a few times. The big play to Darrell Williams late in the 3rd and 4th quarter, that was kind of on Quan. But he did make some great plays as well. Ronald Blair, 3rd worst rated player. DJ Jones. All right. I know I already went off on DJ Jones, but I'm not done. He only got 12 snaps. That number needs to go down. It really, really does. I really don't want to see DJ Jones out there against a strong running game. He's not a true anchor. Even though he's built like it, it's not really what he is good at. So this is problematic for me long term, and I really want to see Solomon Thomas take over a lot of his snaps. Now, what made this game so special was the amount of pressure we put on the quarterback. We got 26 pressures. 26 pressures. We had 4 players with 4 or more pressures. D Ford had 5, Bosa 4, Buckner 4, Eric Armstead 4. Anytime you are getting that much pressure from just your front 4 guys, you could do some damage there. Now, we didn't have too many missed tackles, but again, back to Quan Alexander, 4 missed tackles in the game. That's very uncharacteristic of him. I don't really understand what was going on, but that was kind of the big thing. And then if you look at in the passing game, he allowed 3 catches on 3 targets for 22 yards. So just that's kind of the snapshot of the week. That was awesome. This is the fun thing about going live. You can't go back and fix this stuff. Now, I don't think Hurd comes back. Saying that, I do think Taylor comes back. How will our offense look with Taylor and no Hurd? Can this win us a Super Bowl? There are some holes on this roster. There's no doubt about that. And as long as we're stopping teams from scoring 20 points a week or less, I think we've got a shot, but we've got to be more consistent. Limiting turnovers will help, but you've got to get something from your wide receivers. We talked about yesterday, Dante Pettis had his best game yet. I think, again, talking about the bet, I really think that he's going to continue to improve. His snap counts have gone up tremendously, but you've got to have something else in that wide receiver core. Jalen Hurd is the big one that I want back because I want him to get meaningful snaps before the playoffs, but if he doesn't, as you said, Trent Taylor his snaps would be huge right off the bat because he was probably having the overall best training camp of anybody in the NFL. So take that for what you want. When are the Redskins breakdown coming? Probably going to be out Friday or Saturday. It seems like I get a lot more live views and more people turning in on Saturdays. It seems like that's what you guys prefer, but we will see there. Should I bet if Dante Pettis scores a touchdown this week? Man, it's coming. He almost scored 2 touchdowns. Really 3. He got tackled inside the 5 twice, both of which he created extra yards on his own. He should have been not even close to the 5, but he got enough separation. And then he had the 1 touchdown catch where he caught the ball out of bounds. It was just a little too high of a throw. So the Pettis touchdown's coming again. We saw the game winner touchdown catch earlier in the season, but I'm pretty bullish on Dante Pettis with the way the snaps and the targets and everything that's coming. So I want to stay with that. Who does the voiceover when your videos come in? Great question, Andre. That's my wife. My wife, she sings quite a bit. She's a very, very talented singer, and I asked her to do it, and so the voice early on, that's Miss Chapman, none other. So anyway. Who are you more excited to come off the IR, Trent or Hurd? Oh, Jalen Hurd, big time. I really do believe he's going to be the future wide receiver 1 of this team. I'm a big, big fan. If we can't keep Breida, do you draft DeAndre Swift, a primetime back? Absolutely not, I don't. Now, is Swift amazing? Yes. I have family that lives and goes to Georgia, and I watch a lot of their games, and whenever I'm in town to see them, I go to their games. They're a lot of fun. I'm a Longhorn fan first, probably Bulldog fan second, but I'll say this. I do not value the running back position. If you look at what we have in our backfield, 2 undrafted free agents that are doing just fine, and Matt Breida and Raheem Mostert. The system determines the success. The player helps. And do I like Swift? Yes. But again, back to what I said earlier. You don't win the game off of skill position players. Maybe the quarterback, but after that, I believe in building through the trenches. We are pretty weak at offensive line depth. Even if you believe in both of our tackles are the future, or one of our tackles schools the future of Joe Staley, that's fine. Interior offensive line depth, we're shaky there at best. I would prefer to take the best offensive guard in a draft over the number 2 or number 3 running back in a draft, or maybe even the number 1 running back, unless they're somebody like Saquon Barkley. So I haven't started all my draft evaluations yet. I do have a big board up of about 50, but I don't want to put it out until I've seen kind of all the people. I will be doing a lot of draft content, as most of you guys know that have been with us. So for the past 3 years, draft is where I got my start. I'm a draftnik. I go to the draft every year for the past 5 years. I love the draft. So trust me, all of that is coming, but I will wait until the 49er season is done before I jump into all of that stuff. And the last question, will the Niners trade for anyone this season? I don't know. Part of me thinks we might trade away somebody. If you look at where we are, we don't have a second-round pick next year, and we have a lot of depth everywhere. So if you could take advantage of some of these kind of desperate win-now teams that are not in your division or on your schedule for sure, why not give somebody up for a third or a fourth-round pick? Try to take advantage of somebody. One of the things I see, somebody wants Raheem Mostert. I know this is going to bother some people. I love Raheem Mostert. However, the coaching staff has kind of relegated him to just special teams and only on long drives. He didn't get that much work. I bring somebody like Jeff Wilson in, promote him, put him on the active roster, trade Raheem Mostert and a fifth, and see if you can get back a fourth or a third. I think that there are teams out there that perhaps would do that. So it's what it is, and so you can take that for what you will. But again, it doesn't seem like we are going to be too active. I kind of wish we would, but it doesn't seem like we are going to be. But if we do make a trade, we will transition to that, and we'll break it down, and we'll have all that stuff for you for sure. Now, I do want to say just thank you again. I really do appreciate all the support, and as always, please like the video. That helps us out a lot. Retweet our stuff whenever that is out there, and if you do listen to the traditional podcast method, please rate and review the show. That helps us out a lot here at the 49ers Rush Podcast. But until the next time, we will have a scouting report episode up in probably 2 or 3 days, but I'm going to have it up soon. And stay strong, faithful. We'll be back with you guys soon. Oop, wrong button.